Our planet is home to more than 8 billion people. Among them are those who don't care what year it is, don't need money, and would never trade their land for a bustling metropolis. In this video, you will get to know various small indigenous peoples around the world who reject civilization for the sake of preserving their culture. Enjoy watching. The last Indo-Aryan tribe, known as the Drokpa, resides in the region between India and Pakistan. Their population numbers 1,800 people. These people strictly avoid contact with other groups to preserve the purity of their bloodline, as well as their culture and traditions. The existence of the Drokpa was first documented in 1830 by the British explorer Godfrey Thomas Veen. He speculated that the people of this tribe are descendants of the close associates and army of Alexander the Great. This assumption arose because all Drokpa have specific physical features that distinguish them from other ethnic groups in the region: fair skin, large eyes, a relatively prominent nose, and tall stature. Most of these people practice animism, influenced by Buddhism. The elders of the communities still perform ancient animistic rituals. Goats play a very important role for the Drokpa, providing them with milk and hides. The Drokpa are very distinctive and cannot be easily mistaken for other peoples. Their appearance is very unusual and unique. They love elaborate attire and luxurious headgear, which are made from leather and decorated with stones, silver, and fresh flowers. Interestingly, both women and men wear these ornate headpieces. The richness of the decorations on a hat can indicate the wealth of its owner. Another important part of Drokpa culture is their music and dance. No religious or festive event is complete without traditional songs and dances. The Drokpa use drums and folk flutes to create their melodies. Through dance and music, they also pass on the history of their people to their descendants. Unfortunately, because the Drokpa strictly prohibit intermarriage, their population is constantly decreasing, posing a threat to their survival. The Sami are the indigenous people of Northern Europe, primarily living in Norway, Finland, Sweden, and Russia. The Sami are a small population, numbering about 80,000 people. These people are unique primarily because they have managed to preserve their culture and identity while not rejecting the benefits of civilization. It is believed that the ancestors of the Sami came to the Arctic about 10,000 years ago, where, after the glacier retreated, there were quite favorable living conditions. After a global cooling period, some of these people moved to areas with a less harsh climate, but most of the Sami remained. For centuries, they have adapted to life in a place where few others could survive. The main activities of the Sami, depending on their region of residence, have always been fishing, reindeer herding, and both sea and land hunting. Today, most of this population is engaged in cod fishing, and only about 10% continue to practice reindeer herding. The Sami speak the Sami language, and sometimes the languages of the countries in which they live. However, the true Sami language has long since split into 9 dialects, with differences so strong that speakers of 2 different varieties might not understand each other. The traditional clothing of the Sami is called jopa, or kofte. It is a straight-cut shirt made of wool or canvas. In summer, men wear a high-collared kaftan with a chest slit over it, and in winter, a long coat made of reindeer skins. Outerwear is always fastened with a leather belt. Sami women also wear a juopa with a bright sundress on top. A very important element of Sami life is their culture and folklore. Adults pass on ancient legends and tales of the people to their children. Additionally, at birth, each child receives their own traditional song called a joik. A joik can be dedicated to an animal, event, or object. Interestingly, Sami who have chosen to live in civilized cities strive to develop the song genre of their people. In the modern world, new performers in the genres of experimental joak and hard joak are emerging. Despite the Sami's acceptance of civilization and their interaction with the outside world, they have remained true to their traditions, culture, and accustomed way of life. The MATZ are an indigenous Siberian people inhabiting the Eurasian coast of the Arctic Ocean, from the Kola Peninsula to the Taimyr Peninsula. Among the other northern peoples of Russia, the Nenets are the most numerous, with a population of over 40,000 people. The traditional religion of the Nenets is animism. They believe that the entire world is filled with spirits. The surrounding nature is guarded by spirit owners, on whose favor human life depends. For this reason, the Nenets perform rituals and make sacrifices to these spirits. From ancient times, the Nenets have been engaged in reindeer herding, hunting, and fishing. Reindeer play a crucial role in the lives of these people, so they sometimes call themselves the children of reindeer. These animals provide them with meat, hides, and serve as a means of transport. The Nenets hunt various animals and birds that inhabit their region, most commonly catching foxes and capercaillies. The Nenets live in traditional families where men engage in hard labor, herding and hunting, while women sew clothes, process hides, cook food, and raise children. They live in traditional homes called chums. Chums are cone-shaped with an opening in the center of the roof to let out smoke from the fire. The outside of the chums is covered with hides, which helps retain heat in the home and protects against the wind. The Nenets are known for their rich folklore, which includes lullabies, tales, riddles, and epic narratives called Yarupts and Sudbapts. Yarupts tell various stories about a main hero who goes in search of a wife, while Sudbapts narrate the hardships and difficult life of the main hero during childhood. These stories are performed in the form of songs. The Nenets maintain contact with the rest of the Russian population and do not reject the achievements of civilization, yet they remain true to their traditions and culture. In northern Namibia, in the Kunene region, lives an extraordinary African people, the Himba, numbering about 40,000 individuals. The history of this people is quite complex. For a long time, the Himba lived in East Africa, but after an invasion by a hostile tribe, they had to leave their homeland and migrate to Namibia. At their new place of residence, they faced further misfortunes. First, they suffered genocide, and then they encountered a severe drought that killed all their livestock. Fortunately, in the 1990s, African authorities began to pay attention to the Himba and started to help them. Since ancient times, the Himba have been engaged in animal husbandry, raising various types of cattle. Women perform the majority of the work in the family. They take care of the children, tend to the animals, fetch water, and even build houses. The dwellings of these people look quite unusual. They are cone-shaped and constructed from young trees. After the basic structure is built, the houses are covered with a thick layer of mud and dung. Externally, Himba homes resemble small caves. This people practice a monotheistic religion, and their main deity is called Mukuru. In addition to worshipping him, they also perform various rituals related to the sacred fire. The Himba also place significant importance on the cult of ancestors. All members of the Himba community take great care in their appearance. They love to create various hairstyles and adorn their bodies and clothes with decorations. The Himba are also known as the people of ochre, as both men and women cover their entire bodies with a mixture of ochre, fat, ash, and aromatic resin. After applying this mixture, their skin acquires a reddish hue. This mixture not only provides excellent protection against the scorching sun, but also symbolizes blood, which in turn signifies life. The Himba do not resist contact with other people. They use some modern items but do not allow civilization to completely change their culture. In the Bay of Bengal, within the Andaman Islands archipelago, lies North Sentinel Island. On its lands lives a small indigenous people known as the Sentinelles. These people not only reject civilization, but they are also ready to kill any outsider who sets foot on their island. It is believed that the Sentinelles have inhabited the island for 60,000 years, making them a very ancient but endangered people. It is impossible to calculate the exact population of Sentinel, but experts estimate that no more than 42 people currently live on its territory. For a long time, the island, surrounded by coral reefs and covered with dense tropical forests, did not attract the interest of Europeans and remained off the main trade routes. For this reason, the Sentinelles managed to preserve their culture and uniqueness. Just as thousands of years ago, these people continue to engage exclusively in gathering and hunting. The first encounter between people and the Sentinelles occurred in the 19th century. After the shipwreck of an Indian trading vessel, the surviving sailors tried to land on Sentinel shores, but they were met by aggressive natives. Fortunately, a passing warship helped them escape death. Undoubtedly, such an ancient people, still in the Stone Age in terms of development, attracted the attention of scientists. Starting in the 1960s, researchers tried various ways to establish contact with the Sentinelles, but all attempts were unsuccessful. The natives accepted gifts only if there were no outsiders nearby. At the sight of people, they immediately began to attack them with their bows. The Sentinelles never agreed to contact civilization. Moreover, they have committed many killings of people who tried to approach the island. The most recent person killed by these natives was 26-year-old American researcher John Allen Chow. During his second attempt to establish contact with the Sentinelles, he was shot with a bow. Currently, the Indian government prohibits people from visiting this island because the Sentinelles pose a serious danger. The Kowai tribe lives in the dense forests of New Guinea. Amazingly, the existence of this people became known only in the 1970s. For over 1,000 years, the Kowai tribe was unaware of the existence of civilization and lived as nature guided them. Of course, they had to deal with other indigenous peoples, so for their protection, they began to build tree houses up to 45 meters high. These structures helped the Kowai escape from insects, predators, and other people. Additionally, the tribe believes that the higher their dwelling is, the more inaccessible it becomes for evil spirits. In such houses, families of up to 12 people can live together with their domestic animals. Building a new tree house is a real ritual for the Kowai. First, they cut down sago palms, then lay the trunks near swamps so that insect larvae will settle in their bark. The Kowai consider these larvae a gift from the tree goddess and therefore collect them and then ceremoniously gather the whole tribe to eat these larvae. By accepting this gift, they receive a blessing for construction. The Kowai live a primitive life and believe in their customs, some of which seem horrifying. For example, they practice cannibalism, but only if they are attacked by hostile tribes. The Kowai themselves do not attack anyone and lead a fairly peaceful lifestyle. Men engage in hunting and construction, while women are responsible for raising children and household chores. All Kowai also practice animal husbandry. Their domestic animals are wild pigs, which the men capture and then train to live among people. They do not eat the pigs. Instead, they use them for carrying loads. Interestingly, the average life expectancy of members of this tribe is only 30 years. This may be due to the fact that all Kowai, both men and women, spend all their free time smoking palm leaves. In South India, in the Nilgiri Hills, live 18 indigenous peoples, one of which is called the Toda. The population of these people does not exceed 1,400 individuals. The origin of the Toda people remains unknown even to anthropologists. The natives themselves believe that their ancestors were sent to this region along with buffaloes from the constellation Taurus. The appearance of these people indeed differs from other peoples of the Nilgiri Hills. The Toda have fair skin and green eyes. Since ancient times, they have been engaged in animal husbandry, specifically raising buffaloes. For them, the buffalo is a sacred animal, so the Toda raise livestock only for milk. Interestingly, these people never eat meat and consume only fruits, honey, and milk. Each member of this tribe owns at least one buffalo, which is kept in a special enclosure called tiriri. There are also sacred buffalo cows in the settlements, which live in special temples. Their milk is considered healing and is used for treating illnesses and during rituals. The special reverence for these animals among the Toda is also connected with their beliefs. They believe that after death, each of them is reborn in the body of a buffalo. When someone from the tribe dies, their relatives kill their buffalo. The animal is beheaded and buried, after which the deceased person is cremated above this burial site. It is believed that the buffalo will deliver the soul of its owner to the constellation Taurus, so that in the next life, they will be born in the body of the animal. The Toda revere the mother buffalo, and therefore, the leadership in the family always belongs to women. Women can independently choose a husband or several husbands. Interestingly, even if a woman is pregnant, she can reject her husband and choose another partner from the settlement, and the man has no right to refuse her. Unfortunately, the Indian government constantly interferes in the lives of this people, trying to assimilate them into the civilized world. However, the Toda resist this in every possible way because they fear losing their unique culture forever. In the Brazilian forests of the Amazon, in the state of Maranhão, lives one of the most reclusive tribes in the world, known as the Awa. For several thousand years, the Awa have remained hunter-gatherers. They lead a nomadic lifestyle, constantly moving through the dense Amazon jungle. It is difficult for modern people to imagine how one can survive in tropical forests, given the many dangers around. But the Awa know every inch of their territory and are not afraid of challenges. These people are not familiar with the benefits of civilization. Many of them have never even had contact with outsiders. However, the Awa are renowned for their impeccable hunting skills for peccaries and other wild animals and birds. They use bows and spears for hunting. For almost 500 years, Brazilian indigenous people have been trying to protect themselves and their lands from the invasion of civilized people. When Portuguese colonizers arrived in these lands, the Awa were one of the most numerous peoples in the region. Historians believe that their population then exceeded 300,000 people. But what could the indigenous people do against armed invaders? Of course, nothing. The colonizers noticed that the Awa men possessed great strength and endurance, so they started using them as slaves, and those who resisted were simply killed. The population of the tribe began to decline rapidly because the indigenous people had no immunity to the diseases brought by the Portuguese. Some of the tribe managed to survive by hiding in the dense jungle. Their descendants now inhabit their ancestral region. Unfortunately, the situation has not improved in modern times. The state of Maranhão has already lost 75% of its forest due to uncontrolled logging. Thus, the Awa are once again in danger. This situation finally forced the Brazilian government to take measures and prohibit logging in the territory where this tribe lives. Between the Javari and Galvez rivers, on the border of Peru and Brazil, lies the homeland of the MATZ tribe, also known as the Mayaruna. The population of this people is about 3,200 individuals. In the past few decades, the MATZs have adopted a sedentary lifestyle. They build homes from wood and palm leaves and engage in hunting and gathering. The primary weapon they use for hunting peccaries is a bow with poisoned arrows. This tribe is notable for its spiritual worldview. The MATZs believe in animism, meaning they think that all places and creatures have their own spirit. They hold the spirits of animals in particular reverence and fear offending them. For this reason, Mayaruna hunters have many taboos on hunting various types of animals. The MATZs link the plant world, particularly trees, with the spirits of animals. To gain strength and blessings from the animal spirits, they make various medicines from plants. The range of their medicinal recipes is incredibly diverse. According to the indigenous people, such medicine provides them not only with essential qualities like strength and bravery, but also with good health. The most popular medicinal remedy among the MATZs is a snuff called nunu. It is made from the bark of a rare tree that grows only in their forests. The first contact of the MATZs with civilization occurred in the late 1960s, but it led to many killings of the indigenous people. Their lands were attacked, but after a change of power in Peru, the situation temporarily improved. In the 1990s, the MATZs territory was again in danger. This time, massive deforestation began in the jungle. Fortunately, the governments of Peru and Brazil managed to stop it, and in 1998, the MATZs were granted ownership rights to a reserve area of about 457,000 hectares. Despite this, poachers and amateur explorers continued to infiltrate the jungle, trying to make contact with the MATZs. This led to diseases and deaths in some indigenous communities, as these people have no immunity to many modern infections. Currently, the MATZs are once again under protection, thanks to a joint project between Brazil and Peru aimed at preserving this small indigenous population. The HUANI or Waorani people, numbering about 4,000 individuals, live in the dense Amazon jungle in eastern Ecuador. Despite the absence of any amenities of civilization and the challenging conditions of life in the tropical forests, these people strive to protect their lands and preserve them in their pristine state. The Waorani are as comfortable in the jungle as fish in water. They have learned to climb trees skillfully and easily obtain their food. Interestingly, over time, their feet have evolved to become completely flat, and some members of the tribe have developed 6 toes on both their hands and feet. Men are responsible for hunting and gathering in this tribe. Their main weapon is a long blowpipe. Using it, the Waorani hunt monkeys, peccaries, and birds. The only birds they never kill are parrots, which they keep as pets. Most Waorani live around the Rio Napo River, which flows into the Amazon. In the mid-20th century, some members of this tribe abandoned their traditional way of life and became closer to civilization. They built villages and accepted aid from the Ecuadorian government. However, 4 tribes refused to change their way of life and continued to react negatively to any contact with outsiders. The entire tribe remains united by their love for their land, but unfortunately, about 40 years ago, they faced an invasion of their territory. Oil deposits were discovered in the area, leading to deforestation, and the Waorani raised the alarm. Fortunately, in 1990, the tribe was officially granted the right to a reservation area of approximately 6,125 square kilometers. This land intersects with Yasuni National Park, so now the Waorani forests are safe. This decision not only preserved the tribe's home, but also stopped the killings of loggers by members of the wild tribes. Today, there are about 16,000 CHUKI people in the world. Most of them live in the Chukotka Autonomous Okrug in Russia. For a long time, the CHUKI lived on their own territory, which stretched from the Bering Sea to the Indigirka River, and from the Arctic Ocean to the Anadyr and Anyui rivers. The first contact of this people with others occurred in the 17th century, when the Russian army tried to subjugate the CHUKI and incorporate them into the Russian state. This was not achieved immediately, as the CHUKI were ready to fight for their lands to the last. However, after Empress Catherine the Great granted the CHUKI many privileges, they agreed to accept Russian citizenship. Since then, the Chukotka region has been part of Russia. The CHUKI are divided into 2 main groups, the coastal CHUKI and the reindeer CHUKI. The first group lives in settlements along the shores of the Pacific and Arctic Oceans. Their main activities are fishing and hunting large marine animals such as seals, walruses, and sea lions. The reindeer CHUKI lead a semi-nomadic lifestyle. In summer, they live by the ocean, and in winter, they move to the mountains. They engage in reindeer herding, and like the coastal CHUKI, sometimes hunt marine animals. The CHUKI cannot be considered an isolated people who reject civilization. On the contrary, they actively use various achievements of civilization, particularly snowmobiles and satellite communication. Most CHUKI settlements have hospitals, schools, shops, and more. However, despite embracing the benefits of civilization, they continue to preserve their culture. Those CHUKI who still live in traditional dwellings called yarangas practice paganism, specifically shamanism. They perform various rituals, from healing to everyday ceremonies. An integral part of CHUKI culture is their dances, music, and songs. The CHUKI are very flexible and have a good sense of rhythm. They are also skilled in playing folk drums called yarar. CHUKI singing is unique. This type of singing is called throat singing and is a form of throat singing. As you can see, the CHUKI have managed to adapt not only to the harsh climate of their region, but also to the modern world, while remaining true to their culture. A group of related tribes, the Yanomami, live in the Amazon jungle, stretching along the border of Brazil and Venezuela. This people are recognized as one of the most isolated in the world, with a population of 35,000 people. The Yanomami inhabit an area estimated at 9.5 million hectares, living in small communities of 50, 200 people. The Yanomami group includes 3 large tribes and many small tribes. The indigenous people do not associate themselves with specific tribes and identify themselves exclusively by the settlements in which they live. From ancient times, the Yanomami have engaged in agriculture, fishing, hunting, and gathering. To this day, their way of life has remained unchanged. The Yanomami lead a semi-nomadic lifestyle, meaning they settle in a specific area, build temporary shelters, and after some time, move to a new place. Despite the hot and humid climate of the Amazon jungle, the Yanomami have adapted well to such conditions. The men have learned to cultivate the land and build houses, while the women plant vegetables and harvest crops. The Yanomami live in large dwellings with an open space in the middle, called shabonos. These houses are palisades made from processed wood, with a shared roof made of palm leaves. There are no walls in a shabono. Each family simply occupies its own section of the structure. The Yanomami are known as skilled hunters, capable of luring their prey by imitating the voices of birds or animals. Their primary weapons are bows and arrows coated with curare poison. For fishing, the Yanomami use the poisonous timbo plant, which paralyzes the fish. Rituals play an important role in the culture of this people. According to one ritual, boys have their ears pierced, and girls have their noses and lower lips pierced, with sticks and feathers inserted into the holes. The Yanomami are considered a fairly aggressive people. However, experts suggest that the hostility between communities was caused by the intrusion of Western culture. It is known that the amenities of civilization, which researchers presented to the tribes, created competition and sparked conflicts between different tribes of the same people. In 1971, thanks to Filipino businessman and politician Manuel Elizalde, the world learned about the Tasaday tribe, which inhabited an area near Lake Mindanao. According to news at the time, the tribe numbered just over 20 people. They lived in the forests and possessed almost no skills other than gathering. These people didn't even know how to hunt because they lacked primitive weapons. Naturally, such a tribe attracted the attention not only of the press, but also of anthropologists. Manuel Elizalde personally brought scientists to the Tasaday's place of residence and introduced them to these aborigines. However, the businessman allowed anthropologists and researchers to visit this area only in his presence, explaining that the tribe knew only him and therefore would make contact. Scientists were impressed by this discovery and did not pay attention to the fact that there were settlements with quite civilized residents near the tribe's caves. For a long time, the Tasaday were the subject of scientific research, but over time, they were forgotten. 15 years later, Swiss anthropologist Oswald Iten decided to revisit the caves of the Filipino Aborigines. Accompanied by journalist Joey Lozano and translator Galang Tikawai, he arrived at the supposed home of the Tasaday, but they were not there. Instead, in a nearby village, he found the very people who were supposedly the Aborigines. They revealed to the scientist that Manuel Elizalde had persuaded the villagers to pretend to be primitive savages. Thus, the businessman's deception about the uniqueness of the Tasaday tribe was exposed. And that's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to rate it, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon. Your engagement is the best reward for me. Thank you for your attention. See you soon. Bye.